Greetings, people of Middle-earth. Today we have the integral from negative to positive infinity of arctangent e to the x times arctangent of e to the minus x dx. And that definitely does look strange, but we might as well transform it using the rather obvious looking substitution that is e to the x equal u, which implies that e to the x dx equals du, but this of course further implies that dx, sorry about that, equals du over e to the x, and e to the x is u. Okay, cool. And now what about the limits? As x approaches negative infinity, u is to approach 0, and as x approaches infinity, u will also approach infinity. So this implies that the target integral is now the integral from 0 to infinity of arctangent u times arctangent 1 over u du. That does not seem all that better, but arctangents are really interesting. So what we have here is arctangent of 1 over u being positive. So we know that arctangent u equals pi over 2 minus arctangent 1 over u, and of course it's the same case the other way around. So this implies that I here equals the integral from 0 to infinity of arctangent u times pi over 2 minus arctangent u over u, sorry about that, du. And this looks, well, slightly better, I guess. We could introduce another transformation, and that is letting arctangent u equal theta, which implies that u here equals tangent theta, and this further implies that du equals secant square theta d theta, and all of this, oh wait, the limits of integration, sorry about that, I was about to forget that. So as u approaches infinity, we have theta approaching pi over 2, and as u approaches 0, we again have u approaching 0. So I is now the integral from 0 to pi over 2 of arctangent u, which is now theta. We have pi over 2, which is, well, pi over 2, minus theta over tangent theta times secant square theta d theta. And of course we could modify this a little bit, because secant square is just 1 over cosine square. So there's tangent, there's cosine square, theta, d theta. But we also know that tangent is sine over cosine, so that means you could cancel out one of the cosines, and we're left with sine theta times cosine theta, which would look a lot nicer if there was a factor of 2 somewhere, which we introduce. And now we have, by the double angle formula, twice the integral from 0 to pi over 2 of theta times pi over 2 minus theta over sine 2 theta d theta. And just for the sake of convenience, or aesthetics, you may call it, I'm gonna let 2 theta equal t, so that now I is, well, what exactly? So we know that 2 times d theta is dt, and we do have 2 times dt, of course. So that would be all d theta. The limits transform to 0 and pi. We have dt over here, and t over 2, pi over 2 minus t over 2. And of course you could factor out the 1 over 2 from here, multiply that with another 1 over 2, and then you have a factor of 1/4 outside. Sorry about that. T times pi minus t over sine of t dt. That's our integral, but now what? Well, it's back to the basics with integration by parts. We have 1 over sine, which is the cosecant function, and we have a nice antiderivative for that. So I here equals 1/4 of the integral from 0 to pi of t times pi minus t d log tangent t over 2. That is the antiderivative for cosecant. So carrying out the integration by parts gives us 1/4 of what exactly? Well, we have t times pi minus t log tangent t over 2. My t's are kind of weird, to be honest. 0 to pi minus the integral from 0 to pi of this thing exactly, that's log tangent t over 2 times the derivative of the other function, that's pi t minus t squared, so that sorts out to pi minus 2 times t dt. Okay, cool. It's very easy to verify that this thing collapses to 0 in both limits, and we're left with negative 1/4 of a couple of integrals, in fact, using the linearity of the integration operator, rather 1/4 outside, and we're left with integral, or pi times integral 0 to pi log tangent t over 2 dt minus, rather two negatives canceling out, 2 times integral 0 to pi t times log tangent t over 2 dt. And the t over 2 bits are getting kind of annoying, so I might as well make the transformation of letting t over 2 equal x, which just implies that dt equals 2 dx. So I here equals negative pi over 4 integral 0 to pi over 2 now. And of course you have 2 dx, so that's pi over 2 outside, log tangent x dx, and you have a factor of 2 over there. Now wait, I'll just do this more carefully because I'm bad at math. So 2 over 4 outside, and then this thing turns into 2x, so that's a factor of 2. This thing turns into 2 times dx, so that's 8 over 4, which is 2 the last time I checked. So we have the integral. Why cannot I decide how I want to write my 2's in this particular instant? We have integral 0 to pi over 2 x times log tangent x dx, and that looks like a fascinating integral. In fact, both of these cases are pretty interesting. Now for the first integral, we will invoke the fact that log tangent x, tangent of course being secant over cosine, so this thing equals log sine x minus log cosine x. So we just get Euler's famous log-trig integrals being subtracted from each other, and because they both converge to the same values, this thing collapses to 0. And we're left with twice the integral from 0 to pi over 2 of x times log, again, sine x minus log cosine x. So I'm just going to write this out separately. So we have minus twice the integral from 0 to pi over 2 x times log cosine x dx. Okay, cool. Now I could do another phase shift. I mean, yeah, why not? So where is the preferred color in this case? Okay, let's go with this guy. So if I go from the x realm to the pi over 2 minus x realm, I will have the integral from 0 to pi over 2 of pi over 2 minus x times log cosine pi over 2 minus x is just sine x dx. And this is nice because we have, well, pretty much the same thing over here. And this is going to be multiplied by 2. So that means we have, yes, 4 times that integral. So what we have is the two negatives canceling out, and we have 4 times the integral from 0 to pi over 2, x times log sine x, terribly sorry about that, dx minus 2 times pi over 2, which is, well, just pi. So we have pi times the integral from 0 to pi over 2 of log sine x, which is again one of Euler's famous log-trig integrals, and this thing of course converges to pi over 2 times log 2, which implies that the target integral I'll call this thing I sub 1. So this thing equals I sub 1 minus pi squared over 2 log 2. This marks the appearance after quite a while of one of my favorite infinite series expansions, the one for log sine x. And let me just pull out my notes, the old notes that I found deep in the archives of Minas Tirith. I was initially looking for Isildur scroll on the One Ring, but I found this to be a lot more interesting, and now I'm doing math on YouTube. Well, that's life for you. Anyway, so log sine x equals negative log 2 minus the sum over k from 1 to infinity of cosine 2kx, terribly sorry about that, over k. So all I need to do here is expand by x so that I have x times, terribly sorry about that, log sine x equal to negative x times log 2 minus the sum over k from 1 to infinity of x times cosine 2kx over k. And I'll integrate with respect to x from 0 to 2 pi. So that gives me I sub 1 on the left-hand side, which is exactly what I was looking for. And on the right, I have negative log 2 times x squared over 2, which with these limits should yield pi squared over 8. Okay, cool. And for the other term on the right-hand side, I'll switch up the order of the summation and integration operators to get the sum over k of the integrals from 0 to pi over 2, and I'm going to take the k terms outside, that is the 1 over k, because it's independent of the x variable. So we have x times cosine 2kx dx. And all we need now is some integration by parts. So we have the di method, x cosine 2kx, and we need to integrate this bad boy, which gives us sine of 2kx over 2k times, not times, well, the next time, we have cosine of 2kx over 4k squared. And on the differentiation side, we have a 1 and a 0. The alternating plus and minus signs, this term here and that term there. These are the results of our integration. Now for the limits, this first term here crashes out to 0 in both limits because as x approaches 0, you get a big fat 0 over here. And as x approaches pi, you get sine, pi over 2, that is, you get sine of k times pi, which is of course 0 for all k. Okay, cool. So we have a couple of negative signs being cancelled out. So I sub 1 equals negative pi squared over 8 times log 2 minus the sum over k of what exactly? So we have a factor of 1/4, and we have 1 over k cubed, and wait, we're still left with cosine 2kx with the limits being 0 and pi over 2. So that of course yields cosine of k times pi minus cosine 0 is of course 1, and cosine of k times pi is nothing but negative 1 to the k, which is quite nice because we have negative 1 to the k, which is either plus 1 or minus 1, depending on whether k is even or odd. So for the even values, that is k equal to 2n, this thing would return 0. So the only surviving terms would be k equal to 2n plus 1. So this implies that I sub 1 equals negative pi squared over 8 times log 2 minus 1/4 times the sum over n of 2 over 2n plus 1 cubed. Rather, wait, it's negative 2. So there's some lovely cancellation taking place, and we're left with a factor of 1/2 outside. And it's pretty easy to verify using the Riemann zeta function, in this case zeta 3, or Apéry's constant. So Apéry's constant is the sum over n, terribly sorry about that, the sum over n of 1, that still does not look any better whatsoever, terribly sorry about that, my OCD kicks in. The sum over n of 1 over n cubed, and you can decompose the sum into sums over even and odd values of n. So this would be a sum over k of 1 over 2k cubed, which is of course 1/8 of the sum of 1 over k times 1 over k cubed, which is of course again 1/8 of Apéry's constant, so that's convenient. And in the other case, you will just get your target sum S. That is exactly the sum over here. So let me just give myself some writing space. This is S. So this implies that S here is 7/8 of Apéry's constant, or zeta 3. So I sub 1 equals quite nicely pi squared over 8 times log 2 plus 7/4 of Apéry's constant. Now, I forgot, what exactly were we evaluating? Oh yeah, we're supposed to have I sub 1 minus pi squared over 2 times log 2. But wait, again, I am forgetting something. Oh, dear me. We needed 4 times I sub 1. Terribly sorry about that. Yeah, now it makes much more sense. No, wait, it still does not. This is not adding up. Oh, I see. I got it. This thing actually sorts out to negative pi over 2. You will probably see some text pop up during the video telling you that there's a missing negative sign over there, which means that this should be a plus sign, which is quite convenient because then you have some cancellation. So multiplying I sub 1 by 4, you would have negative pi squared over 2 times log 2, and you have the positive version of that earlier. So this implies that I here is just exactly that. It is, something's wrong again. Something's wrong, I can feel it. Oh yeah, I forgot the factor of 1/2. 1/2 is over here. So I instead multiplied by 2. Yeah, again, like I said, I'm bad at math. So no worries, I gave you guys a full disclaimer first up. So this is 7/16. So this implies finally that I is just 7/4 of Apéry's constant. And in doing so, we have yet another addition to our gallery of integrals that are actually just Apéry's constant in disguise. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.